Hello, welcome, and happy Friday. It's January 16th, 2026, and we are live on the internet. Tonight, I'll be joined by Maureen Thurin to talk about medical cannabis access and her daughter Ashley's story.
Since the state legalized medical marijuana, it has approved 42,000 qualifying patients. 305 are under the age of 18. One of those is 12-year-old Ashley Thurin. She was 2 years old when she was diagnosed with leukemia. Chemotherapy treatments have left her cancer-free but with debilitating seizures. Now, thanks to Ashley, for the first time this school year, every qualifying student at an Illinois public school will be allowed to take medical marijuana on campus. Ashley Thurin has had a very busy summer.
What did you do this summer? You made
a law.
What's it called, Ash?
Ashley's Law.
Ashley's Law requires Illinois public schools to allow parents or caregivers, sometimes a school nurse, to administer medical cannabis at school, medicine that comes as a patch, a pump, or an edible. Without it, Ashley could barely get through one school day.
24/7 we would have to really shadow her, or she would have random drop seizures, breakthroughs, head drops, blinking episodes.
Ashley, like any other child in the state of Illinois, wants to be a kid. She wants to see her classmates. She wants to see her friends from school. She wants to see her teachers.
Last year, Ashley's parents had to sue the Schaumburg School District so she could take her meds.
It wasn't us against them, it was the team against the law.
But they wanted every child to have the same rights, so they brought their fight to Springfield. Ashley's Law passed with bipartisan support and was signed by Governor Rauner August 1st. So is medical cannabis any different to you or the school nurses than Adderall or any other medication that these students are taking?
No, I don't believe that it is different. It's at its core, it's what's in Ashley's best interest.
Every morning, Ashley puts this CBD patch on her foot. In the afternoon, the school nurse will help her apply the CBD oil to her wrist. CBD is a derivative that does not get her high.
She can wake up and have a normal day and play with friends and go places.
Since figuring out the dose, these meds have kept her seizure-free. Compare that to 1 year ago, before medical marijuana.
The difference was night and day.
When Ashley was in a wheelchair and suffering 1 to 3 seizures a day.
I feel like we had her bottled up for years with medicine over drugs, and now she's getting another chance.
A new chance and a new hope for the Jane Addams middle schooler who's anxious to get back on palms, ride her bike, and inspire other kids who are just like her shoes say.
I'm proud of you, baby girl. Yeah, we did it.
Now here's the best part. The Thurin family is now in touch with other families around the country who are working on similar laws. It was such a pleasure to meet them and have them share their story with me. And Ashley's an amazing child, and as are her parents, advocating for so many people across the state.
I want to encourage you to sign the petition to help support Ashley. You can do that by going to thecolememo.com/Ashley. Once again, that's thecolememo.com/ASHLEY. I'm displaying it on my screen right now. You can see there's a header that says sign the petition. And if you just click right there, you can help support Ashley. And you can see many people are signing. We need more signatures. We need more support. Also, if you'd like to call into the show, we'll be taking callers later. Go to colememo.com/live. I'm also displaying that on screen right now. And this is the button you're going to click when we are accepting callers. I will let you know when we are accepting callers. And once we are, you just go here from any device, click that button. You don't even need to turn on your video. You can join via phone, computer, tablet, maybe even from your smart fridge. Who knows? The point is that it's easy to call in, and I'd love for you to consider doing that because there's nothing like hearing from you, the listeners. There are other ways to share your thoughts on the show. Once again, we are live on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, so feel free to drop your questions or thoughts in the comments. We may feature and address them on screen. If you're catching this later and you're wondering, how can I catch these live broadcasts? I'd say the best way to do that is just to head on over to colememo.com/YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you never miss a live stream. This podcast is also available for streaming on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and other podcasting platforms, or you can just go to colememo.com to stream the podcast. To support the show financially, which is definitely needed, head on over to colememo.com/support or become a patron at colememo.com/Patreon. That's just $3 a month. You can help keep this show going and get early access to content. Once again, that's at colememo.com/PATREON. I'll just say that this show, to run the show, it's not free. There are licensing fees, distribution fees, equipment costs, travel, and so much more. So if you're able to support the show, please consider it. This show is funded by listeners like you. If you can't, though, that's okay, because one of the best ways to support the show, especially if you're watching or listening from platforms like YouTube, is to just hit that like button, subscribe, or give the show a favorable rating from wherever you're tuning in from. Share it with your friends. It all helps way more than you might think. And with that, I'm joined by Maureen Soren, Ashley's mom, for this live broadcast of
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
And now I'm joined by Maureen. Maureen, thank you for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
So before we get into all of this, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your backstory, maybe even how you met Jim, and then we'll talk about Ashley's story and her journey.
Sure. Well, I met my husband, Jim Surin, back a long time ago. A college friend of mine set us up on a blind date. My husband was working at the Arlington racetrack, and he had an employee under him that said, "I know someone who's single. I think you two would hit it off." So we were set up on a blind date, and the rest is history. And then we were married in 97, and we had Ashley in our one and only child, Ashley, back in 2006. Now Ashley's 19 years old and contributing to society. She's in a job, and she's been taking medical cannabis now for almost 8 years. So it's pretty amazing for her.
Yeah. And I don't want to, strike up any strong emotions, but I do think it's important to touch on the transformative power of medical cannabis. So for people who may not know Ashley's story, can you describe what life was like for your family before Ashley had access to medical cannabis? And then we can talk about, how life was after that.
Sure. So Ashley, she was born in 2006, and then December of 2008, she was diagnosed with leukemia. So that's basically cancer of the blood. And she had to have some very heavy duty chemotherapy treatments for 3 years. But within the first year of treatment, she started having seizures from a high dose of methotrexate. She had a spinal, and then later in that day, we had her appointment. Then we went to visit Grandma and Grandpa. And then I was driving home. I remember clearly I was driving home on Willow Road, Northbrook, approaching Palatine. And I looked back, and Ashley's eyes were rolling back. I thought she was like choking on something, but she was having a seizure, and that was her first seizure. She was in her car seat. I pulled over. I held her in my arms. I thought she was choking, but she was not. It was a full-blown seizure. And I called 911, and the Palatine Fire Department came quickly and stopped that. But then from that point on, she went through a lot of chemotherapy stuff, and it was just crazy because we ended up going on a lot of anti-seizure medications, which were strong. When she was pretty young, they were working, here and there, and then they would tweak the doses here and there. But she was having 1 to 3 seizures a day, and it just didn't seem like, she was responding to one medication or the other. So they kept adding different medications to her regime. And then I would say that went on for about from age, let's see, age 3 was her first seizure. And then until age 11, 12, she had a concussion and brain surgery after a seizure. And she had fallen in a grocery store, and it was horrible because we thought, wow, we're just gonna tweak those meds again, and here we go. So it just didn't seem fair to her. So we had to explore. We went and looked into naturopaths, and 2 naturopaths both said that she needed a low carb diet and cannabis, and that she would have a new life. And you know what? They were right. As soon as we started just the lower carb diet, like real food, clean food, organic food, which everyone knows it's so costly, her seizures and her like episodes started to diminish. So we knew the diet was part of it. And then we're starting her on hemp with the doctor. And she responded well to the hemp, but then she was still seizing at night. So we ended up talking to the doctor again, and she said, we think you need full plant. And I said, in English, can you tell me what full plant is? And she ended up needing to apply for the medical cannabis license, which at the time in Illinois was a pilot program. So we did apply, I believe it was like September, October timeframe where I applied. I did all the paperwork myself because I kept seeing online different things where people were using this place or that place or getting ripped off by this place or that place. So I thought, I'm just going to do it myself, turn it all in. I'll keep copies and follow up on it. It took 100 days back in 2017 to get her license, from like September to December. So yeah, she started that winter, and I got her license, and I told the doctor, and the doctor said, I can't tell you exactly what she should go on, but you're going to want a high CBD, low THC for her. And that's what we went in looking for in our first dispensary.
Gotcha.
So,
And what changed once she started using what did you call it?
so
Full spectrum cannabis, if you will. And I'd love for you to talk about not just medically, but in her day-to-day life and
oh
perhaps
yeah.
even independence.
So yeah, we when I went into the dispensary, it was like walking into, a new restaurant and looking at a menu and like, what do you get? It's not like you have a prescription to go get product A, B, or C. You go in with your certification and know generally which ingredients of the plant, from your doctor, if your doctor can feed you that information. And then I said to one of the bud tenders, I said, what should we get for a 12-year-old who had cancer, epilepsy, she's autistic, had a concussion and brain surgery? What would you recommend? And he said, well, I have a couple of families that try, some try tinctures, some try edibles. Oh, and we have a patch. And I thought, oh, a patch, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to see, all the above. And as I looked at them, I thought, how easy could a patch be? Wow, for a child. And she's gone through so much with all the other oral medications between the chemotherapy meds and the anti-seizure meds. And so, yeah, we tried the patch, and we tried also a topical, like on her wrist. And I would say when we first were experimenting too, we had a tincture. She didn't do well with higher THC. She definitely acted a little like loopy and off and spacey. So I thought the higher THC was not going to be good for her. But we also noticed when her seizures lessened and she was eating clean food, she could walk, talk, think. I mean, her speech improved greatly. She used to talk in just like little phrases, and she started speaking in complete, beautifully constructed sentences. So, I mean, it was like watching a huge transformation of her and her energy and her sleep. And the teachers at school were like, what are you doing different? I'm like, she's on the hemp plan and the marijuana plan, and we're moving forward with this because we're seeing good stuff. So she was more present. She was engaged. She just was enjoying and living life, not surviving on a medication for an illness. I felt like she was changing into a different person, and it was
And even
beautiful.
the teachers noticed that. That's
Oh
notable.
yeah. One of her teachers said to me towards the end of that school year that we had, started in December and all that, she said, I wish I had her another year because now she's really available to learn. And I'm like, wow, that says a lot. If a teacher's noticing, how much it's changed her. And so, but yeah, after we started the medication, I said to the doctor, like, okay, does this mean we can start weaning off all of our old medications? Because she was on at least 3 different neuromedicines. And the doctor said, yes. So let's put a little plan together. We're going to work on 1 medication per month, and we'll, wean her off a little in the morning for 2 weeks and then a little in the evening. And we'll just keep doing that pattern until she's completely off. So it took us, it was like January to March of 2018 that we started weaning her off all the products that she used to be on for years for her seizures. And honestly, she had one bump in January where we were close to weaning off one of the medications completely, and we believe she had a withdrawal seizure. So that was her last seizure, January of 2018. And so at that point, we gave her a 1 ml tincture. My husband and I were actually on our way. We were going to go downtown. It was January night. We were going to go downtown for a night, and we had my sister babysitting, and we had my daughter with her tutor. And Ashley had a seizure right there in our kitchen at the table, sitting at a chair. And we knew it was from withdrawal because we had just started really weaning her pretty much off this one medication in big chunks. But as soon as we gave her some a tincture of I think it was I'm not going to know the exact tincture we had at the time, but it was I would say it was like a 70-30 tincture, CBD to THC. As soon as we gave her 1 ml, she was just resting comfortably on the couch within a couple minutes, and the seizure was gone. So we knew when that worked that fast that we made the right move. And the doctor said she might just need a little bit more, CBD in the middle of the day to get through this withdrawal that she's having. So then we picked up a topical, and we were giving her topicals too, like in the middle of the day, like 11, 12 at school, or if she was home, like lunchtime or whatever. But she responded great to the topicals. I think it was Mary's, not Muscle Freeze, but like a gel pen. It was a gel pen, and it was great because we left it at school, and they had it at school for middle of the day for her. So it was perfect. And then February, we weaned her off another medication completely. And then March was the last one that she was on. And then it's been since, March of 2018 that she was on neuromedicines and hasn't had a seizure since January of 2018. So it's been really miraculous with her on the patch, a full patch in the morning, a half a patch at night. We kind of weaned her off the middle of the day salve because she didn't really need it. I think that was during COVID. We decided we'd try to take that away. She didn't really need it. So she's been fine without that. But if she ever needed it again, we could also go back to that because it did work nicely for her as a middle of the day medicine. And then we also use the RSO at night. We use Belushi sweet pea oil, like a microdose. I have it with me too. We use a microdose of this at night, just on a chocolate chip. So, I mean, it's really been amazing. And then the Mary's patches, of course, that we love so much.
Nice.
So,
You
yeah,
used the word miracle. That was actually what I wanted to ask you before I, briefly segued to some of the progress you and Ashley and your husband have all, I think, could be directly credited for. But I just wanted to briefly give you more space to talk about the miracle that is medicinal cannabis because sometimes in the headlines and in the media they make like jokes and stuff and um like as you just said, you were able to switch Ashley over to a natural option
mhm.
that vastly improved her life, and many people noticed it. And I don't know. I just wanted to give you more space because, as you said, it is a miracle, and some people. I hope there's somebody listening right now that maybe is on the fence about it and might be hearing your story right now and considering it as an option because I think some people, if you see how it's presented in the media and such,
Mhm.
you might write it off. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit more space because I think miracle is the best way to put it. So
Yeah.
anything else to say on that?
Well, yeah, no, you have a good point there because I feel like she was on medications for so many years and her body was trying to grow. And then at some point, I felt like her body just was saying, hey, these aren't working anymore. And we had to kind of build up our courage and strength and trust and move away and test out, other medications. And I think we decided we wanted to do it a cleaner route. So that's when we decided to see naturopaths and they agreed. They said, is there a perfect medication out there in the world? Probably not. Everything has side effects. Everything takes time to work with your body, right? And I think almost any medication is trial and error because everybody's body is so different and how you respond to medications is so different. So I feel like we decided it was time to have the courage and strength and uh, just take a new path with her and check out natural diet and natural medicine. And that's what we did, and it worked. And I will never go back if I don't have to the pharmaceuticals that she stopped responding to. And this is a plant, so I feel like we're in a new age where this plant deserves to be legal. It deserves to be studied. It deserves to be in the textbooks, and it deserves to be treated like a medicine.
Yeah. And just briefly on this point, because I think it's also important, and I think you of all people would be able to speak to it. The worst that happens with cannabis is, as you maybe mentioned earlier, just a little bit sluggish. Like you're not gonna, I mean, fatally overdose. You might have a little bit too much, let's say, that sort of exceeded what you needed to just, suppress or address rather the medical need. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that? Because that's one thing about the natural option is that like it's all
Yeah,
about titration.
you have a good point. And when we started taking the products, we didn't know she was little. She was 11, 12 years old. So we decided to what I did, and this was at the advice of my doctor, and I still have it, and I think it helped me, was I kept a journal. And I kept a journal every day when I stayed home from my job. I worked from home, but then I also stayed home and like literally watched how she responded and took notes. Like I journaled what she would eat, what activities she would do, how she would respond, what she might say or how she might feel. I think it's important when you're changing around medicine, especially if you're weaning off one medication and going on another, to take notes on it because it could take a long time to get to your perfect dose. And it took us, I would say, almost 3 months or so to figure out exactly what worked for her daily. Like, the school day starts at between 7 and 8 o'clock. They're getting on a bus, they're at school from whatever, 8 to 3. Then the kids have clubs. And I think if you're going to do it smart, I would recommend do it under the care of a doctor that is, certifying you, but then also for your own sake, take notes on it and watch what works and watch what doesn't work, and ask your dispensaries for help, because they do have some specialists there. I wish one day they would have like a pharmacist and or doctors there, which would be really cool. But for now, if you don't have that, then you have to be smart for yourself, especially if you're taking care of a child or adult that can't always tell you how they're feeling. But if that product's helping them, then you have to be really careful as to what you're giving them, and make sure they're not getting too much every day. You don't want you want people to live on this medication, not be all, sleeping on it all the time. You want them to live their life. And that's what I am seeing my daughter work and do, dance and theater and ride her bike. And it goes on and on. Work a job. I mean, it's crazy. She's at IKEA now, part-time with her school program. She's in a dance theater group, and she's been in that since, like, I think COVID. We joined it, and she loves it. It's exercise, it's social, and we have not seen any evidence of a seizure since 2018 with her. I mean, it's incredible. It really is.
Wow, that is incredible. Well, before we get to today, I just wanted to briefly cover this because I want to thank you for what the progress you've made. And so I'm displaying a
Aw.
headline on my screen right now. This was back in 2018. Do you just want to discuss this? And then I've also got, this headline as
Wow.
well when the expansion occurred. But maybe we start here and then
Mhm.
progress.
So yeah, that was when we had to. She started the program, and then it was winter break, 2017, and we realized, well, we're not going to get this back into school easily, because we talked to her doctor, and she said, well, it's not allowed in school, so I don't know what you're going to do. So I picked up the phone and called our district and talked to the doctor at our district in District 54, and he's actually still there too. Cool guy. And he said, I'm really sorry, Mrs. Cern. I don't know if there's anything I can do for you. There's a law, and I completely understand your argument here. I mean, if you've got a product that works for your child, you got to do what you have to do for your child. And I said, I would have to research what legal options we have here, because we're in a state program. We're in a public school. I didn't understand, like, the real problem with having a medication that's a state-run program. We have a license, and we had caregiver licenses. I didn't know why we couldn't have it in school. And it was just the law was there, not allowing cannabis in school. So then we realized, this is a legal matter. And I started calling around to attorneys, and I asked my doctor if she knew any attorneys. And it turned out my doctor knew an attorney. So I called him, and he said, I can't help you, but I have a friend who I think could help you. And that's how we found Steve Glink, and he was amazing. It was a big, kind of a big research project, because it was groundbreaking. They had never done it. They realized that we had a good point, that children should have been included in that program somehow, some way, but they were just, it was an oversight with the development of the program and the law. So then when we sued, we got to court. It was the attorney general, it was our attorney, the school district's attorney. And the cool thing to me was we got into court, and the attorney for District 54 came up to us right away and said, we just want you to know, Mr. and Mrs. Cern, that we are not fighting against you. We are with you. We understand, and we want to help Ashley. We want to help you. So we're going to work on this together. And that was amazing that they had said that and wanted to, kind of, this was like a team effort at court. And then when we got into court, Judge Blakey, he said, well, why are we all here if we want to help this family? I don't understand. If this child needs your medicine and you don't have a problem with it, why are we all here? And then they explained, well, there's the law. Obviously, cannabis isn't allowed in school. So what do we do? And he said, well, you have homework. You need to go home and make a new law. And that's what they did. So it took a lot of affidavits from our doctor. She wrote a lot of, Ashley's health history, and then how we started into the hemp first and then into the marijuana. And the attorney, he got involved. Christina Castro, actually, she did the shell bill. She's over on the right there. As you look at the camera, as you look at the picture, she's on the right next to Jim. That's Christina. And she invited us down to hear it read in Springfield. That was really cool. And we got to watch the actual vote in Springfield. So that was cool to watch that. And then when they had the signing of the law, we met Governor Rauner. And to the right of me is Steve Glink's son, who was also studying to be in law. So that was Steve Glink's son. But it was incredible. And it was really cool because I think Christina did that bill, and it was like the shell bill. So it needed to have like a lot of fine tuning, and we had to add some things in there. Like we needed to add, I think, an extra caregiver in there because I think it just had one, then we needed two. And just little things here and there. I think Bob added in a couple things here and there too. So, I mean, it's been a journey just to learn the whole law side of it. And then the school to have their questions too, because they had to store it. And there's been really no problems at school that I've heard of. So it's been really kind of cool to watch not only Ashley's journey with the medicine, but society, accept it and let it happen. There's been no road bumps as far as we know in school.
That's great to hear. And you mentioned Bob earlier. He's been on the show in the past, so I want to give credit where credit is due. Representative Morgan, for folks that want to search up Representative Morgan's work within the Illinois Medical Cannabis Program.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get to, and forgive me if I'm speeding up, but how do we get to this? Like what led to needing an expansion, because you got it, like you said, it was received well. You're not aware of any problems, but we needed an expansion, and that happened in 2019. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think that's when also Bob was working on the recreational and making that come to be. I believe that was around the same time, right? Recreational. Was that the
yeah, absolutely. I think recreational or the Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act was signed into law. So this article came out August 12th, 2019. It was signed into law in June of 2019, if I recall correctly.
So we got invited down for that signing because when Ashley entered the program, it was pilot. So we were worried because we needed it to be permanent. If we were seeing all this progress with her, we were like, oh, please make this permanent. We had gone so far with her on it, and then Ashley's law, and so we were really, really hoping that it was going to become a permanent program. So we got invited down for that signing too, and that was really cool because I was worried, and I didn't know when that was going to come into play. But Bob had a lot of work in there too for that signing too. So we were really blessed to be there for that too.
Yeah, to put a finer point on that, in case people weren't picking up what you were putting down, the program was a pilot program, which means it could hypothetically have expired and no longer been a program. There was actually an effective end date, and what Representative Morgan worked to do was make sure that no, this is a program, this is an Illinois program from here on out. It's permanent. And so just wanted to put a finer point on that.
Illinois is expanding the state's medical marijuana program and opening it up to more patients. A signature by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker made the program permanent. The original pilot program was set to expire next year. 80,000 people are already enrolled. The new law adds another 11 conditions to include patients with migraines, chronic pain, and osteoarthritis. It's informally known as Ashley's Law. Ashley Surin got cancer at age 2. Chemo gave her epilepsy and seizures. Her mom says cannabis was her key to treatment.
And we couldn't beat those seizures that she kept having, and we tried many neuromedicines, and they said she needed to consume cannabis and go on a low-carb diet, and by gosh, they were right.
Bob also did one more thing for us too that was pretty cool. Ashley was in a couple summer camps, and so there were times where I would go to a park district and actually literally sit outside the classes with her emergency medicine just in case she were to need anything. And then he also wrote in a parks type of law for anyone who would need it in a camp. So that bill may need a little bit more added to it down the road for perhaps employees to be able to administer to a child in a camp and all that. But I mean, he also was, he championed that as well for us. So that was really kind of cool too.
So I've covered your story a few times, let's talk about what's going on today. Unless there is any other bases we didn't cover, just leading up to today.
I think you've covered it. I mean, she's just been thriving and living on this plant.
And can I just briefly ask you, this brief before we talk about what's going on today? Generally speaking, this is how the process goes, right? You and your husband are her caregivers, and so on the way home from work or whatever, you can go. In the past, you've been able to go and get these patches. I'm painting a picture for what your day used to be like before we get to what's going on today. Can you just explain it? Do you just work it into your routine just like anything else? Like you're going to Walgreens to pick up a prescription, you just kind of stop by and do it? Tell us a little bit about that.
As far as how we would order her.
Yeah, just like a day in the life before this all became a thing that you're concerned about. How did it work?
So good question. So we did start her on the patches, so they became a patch and a half a day for her. So she would wear, one of these patches on the top of her foot from 7 a.m., 6:30 a.m. until say about 8:39 at night. It would probably wear off sometime in the day. They're not meant to last that long, but she would wear them all day. And then at night we would take a new patch and cut it in half, and she would wear a half a patch for bed. But she would also do a drop of Rick Simpson oil before bed on a chocolate chip. So basically, when we'd go to the dispensary to order, sometimes we'd need to order the patches more than we need to order her RSO. Her RSO, these would last pretty much several months because she only did a microdose. So I think we would usually need to order the patches more than anything, or the patches, I would say. So I would try to order them by the quarter. So every 3 or 4 months, if we could do that. And that seemed to work for quite a number of years for us. There were times where we'd have to wait, but that was just, a thing about production, and we understood that. So I tried to order several months at a time for her if we could, if the dispensary could order it, and if the vendor could handle it and the sales rep could order it, then we would just do that. So that's kind of how we did that. Because it was just convenient, because she goes through 50 or so a month, so close to 50 a month. So it was convenient to order them kind of by the quarter. So that's kind of how we did that. And once in a while, this dispensary was, running low. We'd have to go here or there, you hop around and get them where you can get them. But right now we're for the most part in Addison at EarthMed. So.
Okay.
And then,
Go
I
ahead.
was saying, and then recently, as you've heard, um,
Well, before we get to that, I will cut you off here. Sorry. It's expensive, isn't it? And I'm just asking that candidly, like, because I'm a medical patient and I
yeah,
know that.
yeah, they're
But
pricey. They're like,
I apologize if that's a little bit of a
no,
personal question, but this
no,
is an expensive
it's
transaction, right?
reality, and that's why someday we do want insurance.
Yeah,
Um,
right. That's kind of why I was
we're,
asking. Yeah.
the vendor did, there were occasional gifts and donations, so we were appreciative of that too. But they're around $15 a patch. So when you do the math, that adds up really fast. So
Yeah. And how many did you say again a week? I'm sorry. I know you said it already.
about 50 a month.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that adds up really quick.
yeah, it did. And
Okay.
so yeah, I mean, but when you watch your child not live a life
Right.
on medicine for so many years and not enjoy her childhood, and then you find something that works, you can't put a price on that. So I'd mortgage my house to take care of all these medications for her, because it's been really like watching a miracle before our eyes. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I only bring it up because I want to make the point that
right.
it is so expensive. And yeah, you guys need some, obviously it's worth it, but
Yeah. These, I think, they're around 50, 45,
right.
50, depending on unless there's a sale, then you might get a few bucks off.
It's just, I guess the reason I'm making this point is because like you go to Michigan, which we'll get to this in a moment, because you're about to we're about to talk about the problem here. Right. But I guess I ask it because you go to Michigan, a state like Michigan, and on the adult use side of the counter, we're not even talking about medical. That same type of product, like a CO2 syringe, $10.
What?
Oh, easily.
Wow.
Easily.
Wow.
And so, that's why I make the point. And that's, again, I want to make that point very fine. That's without a medical card.
Oh my gosh.
So,
oh my gosh.
okay. Didn't mean to but
No, you threw me
it's an
into
important point.
sticker shock. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Of course, there are risks that come with that. And that's what we're about to talk about. So tell us what's come up. Tell us the issue that you're facing.
Yeah. So, we've been in the program, as I told you, since 2017, and it's been great for the most part. I mean, have there been bumps with inventory? Yes. I think everybody's experienced some kind of issue with this product running out, or this one disappearing, or this one running out, or this one's a shortage. And I get that it's a plant, but it shouldn't. I just feel like sometimes if it happens where something is going to disappear for good, it would almost be nice if there was a path forward. And from my experience, this is the second time it's happened, not with patches, but with it was an RSO. It was Harley Sue, disappeared. There was everybody was on social media like looking for it. And then they said, oh, well, it's gone here, but it's in this state, or it's over here. And it just seemed like things would disappear without any explanation. And even the dispensaries didn't know. So it was kind of hard for that. But anyways, with our patches, this past fall, they all of a sudden we couldn't reorder them. And it was like October, November. I was starting to feel like we were getting low and I needed to reorder. And the dispensary said, I'm sorry, we can't reorder. They're discontinuing those and they're not going to make them. And I'm like, wait, what? So I couldn't believe it. And so I said, do me a favor, go back to your sales rep and ask them, tell them this is Ashley Surin. She's been using these since 2017. We need a batch. Can you please, replenish, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, I don't think we can. So we found out with the state that they had left the program, and there was a licensing thing where they paid X number of dollars to the state. I believe it was around $75K to the state. GTI actually made them, but GTI would pay maybe combined with Mary's. I'm not sure how the monies worked, but they would pay a state fee of like $75K. And then there was also a fee to Mary's for like another 5-6K for licensing. But then Mary's had to pull out for a business plan reason. So, yeah, we were upset. And so I thought, well, let's just reach out to Mary's ourselves and just see what, what they say, what they can do, what they can recommend we do in our situation, because our daughter's been using these for 8 years and she shouldn't stop. It works. And there should be some sort of path for us now without having to relocate our house, So we decided to call the state. We called Mary's. We called some local reps. But it seemed like it was a business plan, and there was no real easy solution here. So we put some inquiries into Raj's office, because they said this is basically, a federal thing. If you wanted to get it anywhere else, it's not legal to go bring it back and forth across state lines. So the dispensary told me that, as did a federal office.
That's is that Senator Raja Krishnamurthy or
Yes.
okay, thank you. So,
So-
both a state and federal representative
I
was
mean,
your
the
point.
dispensary told me it first, and then I confirmed it with the reps and the cannabis division, and there was really no path forward for us. So that was a little bit painful to hear. So we have since been trying to work with them to figure out how we handle this, because if this keeps happening with other patients and other products, then that can really lead to an unsuccessful program. And I want the program to succeed. My daughter's done so well on it and other products, and it just doesn't seem fair. And if we've got other states, like, what are we, around 40 states that are medical? Why can't we have interstate commerce? Why can't that already be a thing? And why shouldn't we push for it, or at least an emergency transport for medical patients, especially if we're in a rescheduling mode now with federal?
Yeah.
So it's kind of where we're at now.
And like, yeah, were you given any indication as to at a federal level or at a state level, if there are any viable options that are on the table, or like kind of how did you feel about the response you've gotten so far from representatives, I guess is what I'm asking.
It's frustrating. I mean, I get it. I don't know that the state can do too much because it is federal.
Right.
However, I think we need to continue to have those conversations with DC, because if that many states are already medical, and now we've got rescheduling already kind of in the works, not completely all written out in law yet, but it's in the works, then we have to be ready for these situations to remedy them before they happen again. Because I think the program deserves that attention. The patients deserve to be remembered in these types of situations, especially if we're looking to grow the program and expand it with rescheduling and studying and research. I mean, the patients deserve it. This is almost a decade down the road where, the products keep expanding, but if we don't keep the research and education and the access going in the legislation, then how do we have a program that's, that's attractive for patients to stay in or to enter? If we're going to make this a decent program for people to use, and the great medicine that it is, it deserves attention for, the legislation, all the above. I keep saying my acronym is REAL: research, education, access or accessibility to it, and legislation. That's kind of how I feel these days. A lot of things are going on, but we need to keep it going. And I commend, Bob Morgan and Christina. They're stepping up, and Raj's office too. They're all trying to do what as best they can with, whatever we've got. And it's tough. I get it. I get it that we have the federal law. I've even written, I wrote to the president. I wrote to Kennedy. I wrote a lot of people to bring this issue to their, to their desk, that it's huge. I mean, my daughter fell in a gap where she has rare condition with rare therapy, and there's no health care, spot for her here. I mean, it's figure it out for yourself. And I don't mean that by the doctors, but I mean the actual society doesn't have a spot for these people that are on rare therapies that are proven, that work, and they have rare conditions. But like if a medicine tomorrow goes missing that somebody needs, that somebody's been on for 7 years, they're going to be in the same boat as me. And I don't want anybody to be in this boat again. It's hard.
And I want to ask you about the program in a moment, but just really quick to really to extend your point and to hopefully emphasize your point. Some people I know, I've covered your story, like I said, and I plan to continue covering your story and giving it as much airtime as that makes sense, so that we can make sure that something changes. Sometimes people will say, "Oh, well, why don't you go to Missouri, or why don't you go to Michigan?" And I know what your response might be, but I wanted to let you say it. How would you respond to somebody that basically is encouraging you to commit interstate trafficking?
I know it's a hard question. I mean, anybody would want to do anything for their child, right? Your child needs something, you're going to go to all ends of the earth for your child. And I think we need to impress upon our legislators, that both federal and state, that somebody who needs a medication in another state should not have to break a law to get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I believe that we live in the United States. We need to unite and figure this problem out fast, because it's going to affect more people. And I know it already has affected people, but we need to do something about it instead of keep sweeping it, the issue under the rug and ignoring it, or telling people, you need to break a law, you need to move, you need to sue, you need to try new medicine. I have 2 words for Ashley's situation: it works. So we should not be told any of those things as a solution. They should request an emergency transport from the FDA for all medical patients' needs in any state today.
Well said.
That's my personal take.
Thank you. And one thing I wrote down that you said the other night was, this is a medicine. It should not be a crime to get your medicine.
No.
I also wrote down that you had mentioned that you feel that she's being forgotten alongside other medical patients. And I guess that I wanted to ask a question about that. And then I do have some follow-ups just with regard to like how traditional healthcare works, and one other question about hemp that we discussed earlier today, and then we'll start to close out. Has this experience changed how you think about whether the Illinois program is like truly medical, or whether it's actually closer to a consumer market that happens to include patients? You mentioned earlier, like, this was a business decision. Like, this comes down to like business and what makes sense. And we're not faulting anybody by saying that. Like you said earlier, we're just kind of acknowledging the facts.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think a lot of things in life, it comes down to money, right?
Right.
Money and politics always sneak their way into almost every conversation that people have. However, I think when we're talking about a medicine that's, been around for what, about a decade as a pilot in Illinois or roundabout there. I feel like, and then it flipped from pilot to, permanent. We need to treat it like it's permanent. If we forget the patients who actually got the rec program to where it is now, then that's not right. I mean, the patients need the legislation change now. All the dispensaries should be medical, in my opinion. I think the doctors need to have more say as to what is stocked for the patients. I think, the doctors need to be able to give input and actually have products, appear at the dispensaries. I think they want certain products and that's not happening. So there might need to be legislation around, the doctor's input for these dispensaries to keep it, truly medical.
Right. And that's where I almost see like a merging of traditional healthcare and then this natural option. But so you have this natural option, but then I think one thing an idea we could borrow from traditional healthcare is the idea of backstops, where you have generics, mandated
Yes.
availability, public or nonprofit manufacturing. That way business isn't a part of the decision. Do you have any thoughts on that, generally speaking?
I brought that exact point up to Raj's office too when I first reported our problem, because I said, I did have an initial problem, obviously, when the product disappeared, because it was like shock. I couldn't believe the patches were gone. But I said to Raj's office, okay, I understand products come and go. Even, people's prescriptions at Walgreens come and go, right? But there's a generic. There's usually a substitute. And there was no path forward from this, from either, the state or the cannabis, the cannabis division. So I felt like, or a pharmacist. So maybe that needs to be in some sort of legislation, a path forward when products are about to exit, or maybe have the vendor give like a 30-day notice or a 60-day notice. And then that gets passed down to patients that are using it, so that there's some sort of, people are prepared for what's about to happen. So I mean, it's hard. I know they're trying to, they're doing their best. It's a newer program, and it may, as you said, it may merge with, Big Farm or something. I don't know if any of us know that answer. But if it does, then they have to be ready.
Yeah. Well, and I know that that's actually a concern that people have. I wasn't so much trying to suggest that. I was just trying to say that maybe we take one of the good ideas from the traditional healthcare system, which is, that there are those backstops for patients,
Yes, exactly.
So that's really the point I was trying to make.
And I would love like insurance eventually too. I know
Yeah.
insurance can get tricky, and that can be, people can argue that pro or con too. I get it. Who hasn't had an argument with an insurance company? I mean, I don't know. So, but there's a lot of growing pains with it. Sorry for the pun, but we'll get there. I think we have strong legislators out there in our state, and I believe we can get there, but we have to listen to the patients now and work on the program now, because we've waited a long time, and it's only fair for the patients, because I just don't want anything to happen to the program. They've worked so hard to get it. Let's keep maintaining it and not let more Ashleys fall in those gaps, because there are thousands like my daughter out there with different rare conditions that need their special therapies. I know another gentleman in Arlington Heights. He was looking for a product for his Crohn's, and it disappeared. And it wasn't that it was like not, I mean, it was still available in the state, but they might have had a shortage here or there. But it's hard to get product transfers too. So, I mean, there's a lot of change that I think is needed in the program, and I think we can do it, but we have to give it the attention it needs, and we need to do it now.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, we'll start to wrap up. I do have just a few more questions for you. We talked about this earlier today, but it's a thing that when I've covered your story in the past, people pointed out to me, and so I reached out to you today, super excited because I found out that the same company that made Ashley's patches in Illinois has sold a version of them online as hemp, quote unquote,
Mhm.
which can legally ship across state lines, though this is something you mentioned at a lower dose. When you learned that, what went through your mind? Can you just talk about that briefly? Because everybody was like writing in and like, Cole, maybe they can get the patches there. And so I mentioned that to you. It sounds like you were aware of that. So can you just
Yeah.
briefly like discuss maybe that?
Yeah,
I have a follow up question on it.
it's been hard to figure out what would be a good like substitute for her. And before I get into that, I just want to emphasize too that the vendor Mary's is ready and willing to make Ashley's patches for her. And our big block is the law. So it's not so much the vendor left the program for good and won't ever make her medicine again. They will make it, but they have a different business plan now. And I think our legislators have to, like we are, respecting it, but let's work with them and get the product here and use that as an example for the next Ashley situation where a patient's going to need a product in another state, because it's going to happen again. I guarantee it. I mean, you and I probably know it already has. And people should not be told, oh, you could just go across state lines and get it and bring it back. That should not be told to anybody to do. It's just, it shouldn't be an option. That's terrible. I mean, right. I get it. It's federal, but then let's work on this. I mean, if this medicine's here to stay and it keeps growing in states, like, I don't know how many states we're at, 40. I mean, they need to address it and work on it for the patients, or the patients aren't going to stay in the program.
Well said. Well, and I guess my point in bringing that up is that since Mary's makes these hemp patches, and I know that you mentioned they're not the same dosage,
right?
Can you talk about that briefly? Like, because again, people were asking about it. They're like, oh, maybe this will help.
So yeah, I have some of those. Here too. They're they're a little weaker than what Ashley uses, but they are a backup for us if we can't obtain the other ones. So I do have them. They don't have the THC amount that she used, but we're looking into other options for that too. Cool. So the nice thing about the patches for her were they were time released, and so it really worked for her long days, as a student. So that's why we really were relying on them. So, but Ben Kobler of GTI did give us a bunch of those before the holidays, so that was really kind and generous. So thank you, Ben.
Shout out to Ben. That's really nice of him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But Mary's too, I mean, we're grateful for both GTI and Mary's. They saved my baby's life. There's no other way to say it. They saved her life. And I can't even think about how Ashley's life would be today if she was on 4 or 5 pharmaceuticals that were just making her comatose and still had seizures and couldn't participate in sports or dance. So it is like a miracle cure to me for her. I know a lot of doctors can't say that, but as a parent, and I watched her, live this now, it's like watching a live miracle before my eyes.
Yeah. And just to briefly extend like sort of that line of questioning, I don't know if you knew this, but the 2018 Farm Bill, one of the reasons they, from what I understand, added consumable cannabinoids to the definition of hemp is a story about Charlotte Figge, who people can look up. She's the reason there's a strain called Charlotte's Web. It's a CBD rich like RSO or CO2 oil. I might have this wrong. Google Charlotte Figge, folks, and do some research on it. And I guess my question here is, I know that Mary's doesn't currently offer that similar dose that was available in the dispensary, but from the little I understand, there's nothing that would like prevent them from potentially producing higher dose versions, like just within the current federal framework. But you've probably heard about this. Lawmakers within the next 300 days, let's say, the federal definition of hemp will change, and products even like the one that you just showed that you bought online will become illegal. And I guess my question is, does it concern you that one of the few legal interstate pathways that patients currently have, even though it's not the same dosage right now, does it concern you that one of the few legal interstate pathways that you have could disappear?
Yeah, I mean, it did scare me when that story first came out, but I thought I've heard that they're reversing it. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I thought Paige was actually working, helping to make that happen too. I
It
did
was,
discuss with her a couple of weeks ago.
to
this
your
whole
point. Yeah,
situation.
to your point, it was included in the executive order that President Trump encouraged the legislature to revisit the definition of hemp so that it might include full spectrum products, which Charlotte
Mhm.
directly benefited from. So thank you for actually mentioning that. But until that happens, though, and I did see actually today, which is January 14th, 2026, there was finally an amendment introduced that
Yes. I
would
didn't know that.
yes. So folks, Google it. By the time you see this, it'll probably be well reported. But I saw it from trustworthy sources today that there was an amendment introduced that would at least delay the ban and encourage regulation instead of ban. Because as we all know, regulation is the answer. Bans aren't. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to ask you about that because I know that some of my listeners wrote in and was like, hey, maybe these Mary's medicinal hemp patches, maybe that'll work for Ashley because people just want to help, right?
I know. It's
Eh,
been, we've had strangers reach out from, all over. It's been kind of cool. But yeah,
yeah,
it's hard because I don't think there's one product out there that's exactly like what she's been using.
yeah.
And I know that, so I have to just admit that there isn't. But I have completely communicated to the legislators that Mary's will make it. So the problem isn't the vendor, and we need to focus that the problem is the law. We need to fix the law. We're not forcing a vendor to make anything because the vendor's already said they will make it. We need to change the interstate commerce or emergency transport laws like yesterday. So that's kind of where I'm focused. And
Alternatively, like if that doesn't work out, do you think there should be like some state-run nonprofit or some other entity that could maybe function within the state of Illinois? Like you held up that product earlier. That actually, I don't know if they still are, but it was Shelby County Community Services, which was a nonprofit. Yeah, I can actually still see their label on that.
So, I mean, you mean if we don't get the emergency transport or the
Yeah. Let's say I would
Oh.
love to get that, but like, do you think that if let's say that's off the table, do you think there should be some state-run nonprofit or other solution to ensure? Because if the brand is willing to make it, but there's just not an entity, like maybe this is what we need.
So you bring up a good point. I almost feel like, I mean, I understand Mary's they probably have a proprietary, rights to, their product recipe and such. But what if there was like a generic version, like you and I were saying before, if they go into the, the pharmaceutical path, then maybe could there be a temporary license to someone within the state to make it, or could the state make it, or, how could that work where there could be some kind of shared rights of the ingredients? And I know, I mean, well, you and I know a lot of people make things on their own at home. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tricky because then you're talking about somebody like let's say my husband opened up a business and he was going to make the patches here. He couldn't make it without that license with Mary's and the state. That license would have to be reopened right now. But if, like you said, there was like a not-for-profit or somebody else that could step in and take over when a product is exiting, that would be really cool. But I don't know how they're handling that just yet. Bob's, I think, kind of working on that, but it's tricky because, I mean, people do own their recipes. So I don't know how you get someone else to make it without them getting sued. So it's tricky. But I also do think I proposed a federal program because of our situation. I proposed a federal program to Raja and Tammy Duckworth and Dick Durbin that people shouldn't fall in a healthcare gap regardless of what happens to a medicine. And maybe they need rare symptoms, rare products, and if it's economic too, maybe accessibility. I don't know. I think they need to look at this as a whole, because we're obviously having a state problem now, and it's rolling into federal. And if federal's going to reschedule, you and I know that rescheduling, once they do their laws, that we're going to have our rescheduling laws. So, I mean, we have to be prepared for this, and these kind of problems are going to come up again. So I think we have to have a creative, well thought out solution for it going forward.
Well said. Well said. Well, I want to give you the space here at the end, but I had one other question that was just inspired by conversations that have come up. And I want to be clear here, like before I ask this question, that when like I have personal feelings about this question, and I also talked to other people to see if they felt the same way. And I was like, is this question insensitive? And they're like, I could see how you might be. And I want to be clear, this is not a question from me. People, and you mentioned this earlier, so I think you're prepared to answer it. People have talked about like, well, what if they just made their own patches or this or that? What if they found a different solution? Maybe it's that they don't need the patch, they need the pill, or they need to vape or this or that. My response to it before I let you respond is like, you've found something that works. It works. You've got a method of applying it, as you said earlier, like a routine. You do it in the morning, and it's evolved. Like, that's how I would answer it. It's like, look, if it's not broke, don't fix it. We know what works. But I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the question, because it's a question that has come up where they're like, yes, they acknowledge, like, yes, it sucks that the product's going, but maybe there is another option. And again, you've heard my response to that, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that, if you don't mind.
No, it's a tricky one, and I get it. People are asking, and we've heard that question before too. It's just, to me, it's not broken, so I don't want to fix it. It works. It's available. It's given her life back. I mean, and it's risky trying. Well, you and I know, I mean, a lot of people who are on something for a long time, whether it's cannabis or a blood pressure medicine, and you go off something, that's risky. And nobody has a crystal ball of what is a perfect fit for her right now to switch to. Everybody can have an opinion of, oh, well, you can try these 3 things, or you can try these 2, or you can try this. But my daughter also, as a reminder for everyone, she's autistic. So she can't always communicate clearly how she feels. So sometimes it's an observation game for us. And I'm not ready to play, risk her life and try a bunch of different things that I think could work. I want to get the closest thing I can to what she's doing now, and that's what we're researching. What is the closest fit to what she's doing? True, could she have perhaps outgrown a lot of her issues? Possibly, but I don't know. And I don't want to play with her life. We're not signed up for that. So
yeah,
it's a tricky question, but I appreciate you asking, because it's come up, and we just Two words, it works, and it's not broken, so I'm not ready to. There's nothing to be fixed except the law.
Well said. And
Mm.
thank you for addressing that. And before you go, I just want to give you space. Is there anything that we didn't cover tonight or anything else that you just want to say? I'll be sure to share your change.org
Oh, I
link
was just
at
gonna
the
say,
very beginning of
yeah.
the interview so that it's not just at the end. But do you want to say it now? And do you want to mention anything else before you go?
Um, no, we love that we have the petition out there. I think it's great. I think we need more supporters on it to perhaps gain the federal attention that it, really deserves. And maybe there is federal attention already. I'm not sure, but I'm glad we have it out there. Everyone needs to keep spreading the word and calling their legislators and pushing for interstate commerce, pushing for reform of the cannabis program. At least I know in my state we need reform, and I believe Bob's already working on that. I know he's got an omnibus bill going. Christina Castro is also working on anything she can from the state. So I think we just got to keep our legislators informed of our true feelings as patients, and keep communicating our issues so that they realize, we're not going to band-aid everything on our own. We need legislation to protect us and to protect the program, and some people need us to speak out for them, like my daughter. I'm her voice, so I feel like we have to just keep on keeping on because this medicine's been probably the best thing that ever happened to my daughter's life. After she went through so much hell with her cancer and all her chemotherapy treatments and all her seizures and all her doctor's visits and all her transfusions and medicine changes, and I mean, the list goes on and on. So why can't she just continue her success with her patches? We just need to figure out as a country, how to unite and fix the laws that are broken.
Well, Maureen, I just want to thank you again for your time today, and I want you to know that the platform is always here for you. By the platform, I mean my podcast. Whether you want to come back on, would love to have you and your husband on in the
Uh,
future as this topic evolves. Hopefully, to talk about how we won and we got attention and sort of address the issue. But I just wanted to let you know that the platform's always open. I wanted to thank you for the progress you've made in
Thank
our
you.
state, because I know that it's benefited you, but it's benefited many others. And I mean to say benefited you and your family, but it's benefited many other families.
That's what we
Um,
wanted.
yeah. So thank you. And I really appreciate your time and what you're speaking on today because we're talking about patches, but I'm sure there's some other product out there that a medical patient is relying on. And um, it's unfortunate to think that there could be other, and you mentioned this earlier, situations just like Ashley's. And so stories like yours help to shine a light on the number of improvements we do need to make to the program. And so I just
Yeah.
wanted to thank you for taking the time to sit down with me. So
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, we like sharing the story because I think we need an army to change this. So I think people need to speak up. Don't hold your complaints in. Tell your dispensaries, tell your legislators, pick up the phone, write an email. That's what we did. And as they like to hear from you, they want to know these problems so they can work on them. And if they don't know about them, they can't fix them. So we have to. It's hard. It's hard for people don't want to complain in life, right? Because that's hard to do. But if you're reporting something that's going to get change for the good, then don't consider it complaining. Consider it, reform. That's what right now we need reform, and this program's worth it. So everyone needs to speak up. If you're missing a product, get on your email, get on the phone, and call your legislators and report it. Call the cannabis division and report it. Call the governor, and they need to hear these things so that they realize that there's problems out there. And the dispensaries, I think they they feel horrible having to tell people, oh, we don't have your product. I mean, I can't even imagine how many times they had to tell people, we don't have your medicine. Try something else, go down the road. That's got to be so hard for them to communicate too. So I just encourage everybody to keep the communication lines open with your legislators, with the cannabis division. And if Bob Morgan's creating this new bill that's going to go out there and it's going to create a complaint form, then be aware of that form and fill it out if you need to, because I think it's going to hopefully start us on a new path of having our products available when we all need them and where we need them. And if you can see that poster in the background, that my sister made, that it says something about her cannabis patches. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
It says, "Dear Santa, all I want for Christmas is my medical cannabis patch. Sincerely yours, Ashley Surin."
And you just mentioned you might have to take off
Yeah,
because of the loss of this access.
So basically, if Ashley's starting a new patch or medication or a little bit of both, I will be having to take off, time from my job. And I'll have to take her out of her job for a while to see how she does on the new medications. So that's kind of sad for Ashley. She's a little upset about missing time with her job and her friends. And she's contributing to, society by working at IKEA. And sadly, I'll have to pull her from that for a while to try a new medication, which could have been avoided if we got an emergency transfer, with the FDA or the federal government. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And it's an undetermined amount of time. I don't know how long it's going to take, but until we feel safe, that she's ready to go back and work a full day and not have any seizures, it's tricky because she's coming off of one almost cold turkey and moving into a new one. So it's a little scary for us.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. And thank you. Yeah, because people might be wondering why, and it's like, well, you want to make sure she's okay. So,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and just
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
since she's autistic, also, we want to make sure that, we're catching all of her feelings, because sometimes she'll feel something, but she might not communicate it right away, or it might be a delayed response with her. So we just want to make sure she's safe, you know, at the workplace and not, going to have any seizures trying something new that might be a little bit different than what she's used to in terms of her old patch.
And just another brief question that I just thought of, and we will wrap. Thank you, by the way, for being so charitable with your time on this.
Oh, sure.
You mentioned that like maybe you signed some paperwork with the FDA or something like that.
Oh,
Just could you just
yes.
briefly talk about that and maybe what it
Sure.
might look like?
So Raj's office, they've researched, I think, every corner possible for this problem that they could, at least from an Illinois standpoint. And one big one is possibly to have us have a meeting with the FDA, because there are some other programs that might work for us. We're not sure, like possibly a clinical trial, possibly the right to try, but it's really up to the FDA, or an emergency transport, which to me would be the most logical choice right now. Let's get the medication transferred and then figure out if we need to do, any kind of emergency programs, or perhaps an interstate commerce law in the background. Laws take forever to make, but if there's some sort of program that we would fit in right now, I think that would be perfect. But perhaps asking them for an emergency transport would be great. So Raj's office had us sign a waiver so that they could arrange a meeting with us and the FDA, and that was last Friday. So we're coming on, almost a week in a couple days. So I'm hoping for a response very soon from their office that we have a meeting with the FDA so we can ask this very, very important question.
Gotcha. Well, thank you.
Or questions.
Yeah, definitely
Today.
questions,
So we'll
plural.
see. I mean, paperwork, I don't care. Throw me paperwork all day to fill out. but let's just get the medicine here. I think that's the important part and the main, point of our meeting. And they may just want us to present to the FDA Ashley's health history and explain our reasoning for this request.
All right. Well, again, Maureen, you and Jim and even Ashley, I'm sure that she's busy with. You said she was in basketball and all these other things, so we can keep it to you, Maureen, and you and Jim, because she's young and living her life. But the point is that the platform's always open, and please
Thank
keep in
you.
contact. Okay.
Thank you for what you do too. It means a lot because I think people need these types of discussions, and it's people like you that are making, the world aware too. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Well, folks, I hope you found value in this conversation. And if you did, please leave a comment, like, and share with your friends. I'll have the link to the change.org petition. I encourage you to sign it. And with that, we'll open up the lines for callers. You can call in now at colememo.com/live. How's it going? How'd you like it? So we got some questions in, and I appreciate everybody dropping their comments throughout. Maureen messaged me and said that this Sunday is actually, I think, what did they say? Hold on a second. Let me make sure I get this right. Smoke them if you got them, people. You can call in now at colememo.com/live. I'm pretty sure the link is up. I'll double check that here, but I'm also gonna get this message up from Maureen. She said, this Sunday marks Ashley's 8-year anniversary of being seizure free. That's pretty cool. So people were dropping questions, comments, and I can try to address them. And we can have some fun here. So thank you, some cat on the internet, for the feedback. I appreciate it. If you guys haven't hit the like button and subscribed, I would also appreciate that. If you've not signed Ashley's petition yet, go to colememo.com/Ashley to do that. And so some of the questions that people were asking about is like, what's the dosage? I had messaged and they said 80 CBD, 20 THC. That's what the message said, 80 CBD, 20 THC. I think that's milligrams. So I was looking at the Mary's hemp website, and there were some that were 20 THC, but I didn't see the 80 CBD, I don't think. But if you guys look on the website and see them, please let me know, because I was trying to look at that as everything was going on. And sometimes it's hard to do all this stuff at once. Yeah. Once again, colememo.com/live if you want to call in. I'm going to make I'm pretty sure I put the link is live. You can join from any device, phone, computer, man, woman, no child. Well, not tonight. Maybe in the future we'll have. I did talk to Ashley the other day. That was kind of cool, and we briefly mentioned the idea of perhaps, having Ashley make a cameo on the show. So that might be a situation in which something like that would happen. So look forward to that. Just gonna kind of keep pushing the envelope. Yeah, one of my things was like, I don't see what would get in the way of a company making the dose that they need by way of the hemp framework, other than the fact that it, unless that amendment that I mentioned that was introduced comes to fruition and is actually passed into law. Unless that happens, I don't see anybody investing their dollars in making a patch like that, unfortunately. So, all right, what are we smoking on tonight, folks? I'm smoking on some homegrown right now. I think the joint just oh. Cheers. I've got another segment on Cannabis Coast to Coast news coming out next week, of course, or at least I submitted one, I should say. I can't guarantee that it's going to come out. It's on Ashley's story, and so I'm excited for that. If you didn't already know, I have done at least one segment as the Illinois correspondent for Cannabis Coast to Coast News. You can find that on YouTube if you search up Cannabis Coast to Coast News or Pro Cannabis Media. Basically, what I do is just a quick 2 minute or story, a 2 minute or less story on cannabis in Illinois. And so next week's story is going to be on Ashley's story and some of the things that Maureen had to say. So stay tuned for that. I'm excited to try to get their story out to a wider audience and hopefully get more people to sign that petition. So if you haven't already signed it, be sure to share that link. I feel like that's an easy one, colememo.com/Ashley, because anything else, I'm not even trying to get people to go to my website. That's cool that they could go to my website. But, if you tell people like how to Google the change.org, but like there's no like short link. That's a pretty fucking short link. That's all I'm saying. So share it with your friends. I feel like anybody could agree to that. And I know that change.org petitions aren't the end all be all, but it deserves way more signatures than it has. I will say that. And so that's why I'm trying to help out and make sure that we elevate this story so that there's some sort of resolution. But I digress. One of the things I was talking about is I really do think that it's a shame that one of the only feasible interstate options, hemp, is potentially going by the wayside. But who knows? The future is still unknown. What does rescheduling mean? What does the future of cannabis policy mean in general? I don't know. I'd love to hear what you all think. Once again, the lines are open. Colememo.com/live. You can also drop your comments below. Some cat on the internet says Mary's is available in CBD 1-to-1. I feel like I'm giving them free advertising with this, which like whatever. It's a product that works for people, obviously, but lots of choices for just one patch. They have a bunch. Yeah, I think though the issue is they don't have the right dosage. That's what Maureen was saying. And I just, like I said, read that message that she said it's. I'm curious if you can find on the website 80 milligrams of CBD, 20 milligrams of THC. I did see some on there that's 20 milligrams of THC, so that's not the problem. I thought that was going to be the problem. That's why I say it like that. I thought that was going to be the problem, was that was too high of a dose. I think Maureen might call back in. I think she's texting me right now. Yeah, she's texting me right now. Do you guys have any questions for Maureen? She might call back in. Hold on a second here. Maureen, if you are listening right now, colememo.com/live. I'm texting you the link to. Other people can call in as well if they want to ask Maureen questions. Damn, I need to text my friend Dave. I know he wanted to ask questions. I just thought of that. See, the thing is, Maureen had a party tonight, so I didn't want to guarantee you all time for questioning. But if she's texting me asking if I want her to call in, then obviously she's watching right now. I'm trying to. Hey, do you have Dave's number? I think Maureen might call into the show and he can ask questions live if he wants to. Dave is super passionate about the subject of medical cannabis, so wanted to reach out to him. Brandon Krieger says Mary's is a good medicinal company. Um, yeah, so drop your questions. I mean, Maureen's texting me right now. Some cat on the internet says Dave's not here. Dave's not here, man. It's funny. I don't know if I ever asked or spoke to Tommy Chung about that. I had Tommy on the show a few times, if people don't know. What's crazy was I met this person. I was talking to them the other day. I say the other day, I mean like a few months ago at this point. Just a funny story really quick. My mom used to she gets on me for saying the other day, "Oh, hey, Maureen called in." That's a story for another time. Maureen, how's it going?
Hi, Cole. Is it too noisy? I'm not sure if this is a good connection, so you let me know.
You sound fine. You sound
Okay,
fine.
cool.
Thanks again for coming on the show.
Oh, no, thank you.
And I was telling people the dosage of the product. They were wondering about that.
Yeah, it's roughly 70-80% CBD and 20-30 THC. She does okay with the the THC, which she does need, but not a lot of it. Just enough to I don't know. It took us a while to get to her perfect dose of that too, but it was roughly that 20-30% in the patch that really worked well or the best for her.
Yeah. Do you know the milligram? You're muted, by the way, if you're
Yeah, roughly she was around like 10, 11 milligrams of the CBD and then a couple milligrams of the THC.
Oh. Interesting. I really do think that Mary's might have this as a hemp patch. I don't know. I could be wrong. If it's just if you said
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not at home, but the COA for her THC was above the 3%, so it wasn't a hemp level of THC that she was using.
gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. What did you say though that was again um what was it? The 2 milligrams of THC and how many of CBD? Sorry, I know you don't have the product with you right now, but
Yeah, sorry, it was roughly, I think her whole patch that she was using with Mary's was around 12, 13 milligrams total. And of that, a couple milligrams were the THC and the rest was CBD.
gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, because I'm looking on their site right now, and I feel weird that, but as other people have said in the comments, they're obviously a great medicinal company. They do have online the 15 milligram THC, 10 milligram CBD, which sounds high. Sounds like it's too high. 10 milligram THC, 10 milligram CBD, and then they have a 20 milligram THC. Um, so it's interesting that they do have such high doses on their hemp site. I'm trying to look for lower ones.
And the nice thing too, which I love about the patches, is you can cut them. So if you ever wanted to, which we did do a lot with the patches and still do, you can cut them to, in half. You just gotta cut them right so that you're still letting the formulation get into your system the correct way. But yeah, you can cut them, which is really nice.
Do you remember what the color of the package is? Somebody just asked.
So yeah, the one we use is white because it's made by Mary's Medicinals, but the hemp patches were, I believe, in a black envelope.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
and then they made a new one. Mary's has a new one online. I believe it's called Restore, and that's in a, if I'm not mistaken, white and green label.
Yeah. Yeah.
Packaging, and then I'm not sure if it's a label or part of the actual colored packaging. But yeah, those are, I've seen those too, and I do have some of those as a backup on her. But yeah, it's tricky because we just don't know exactly how her body's going to react to change, and that's the biggest concern we have.
Yeah, totally understandable. Totally understandable. Well, folks, if you have any other questions for Maureen, drop them now. I don't want to keep you too long, Maureen, because I know it sounds like you're out still and having a good time. So feel free to drop your questions, folks.
Sorry, I apologize. It's a little loud here in the lobby.
No,
Um,
it's okay.
but yeah, it means a lot that we have the support of all the advocates out there, and all the patients really need to step up and speak up for themselves too, because I do believe that there is room for change and reform in the Illinois program, and we all need to speak out and express how we really feel now, because I feel like this is the time, and uh, yeah, the patients deserve it, and I think there is room for improvement. We all know that, and I just think it's a good time to speak out, and everybody should, whether it's to however they feel comfortable, whether they want to go to their legislators or to the dispensary, but you have to speak out or nothing will change.
Yeah. A listener asks, and this is an interesting question. I think your answer might be, you've got something that works and you're nervous about like, potentially moving away from something that's not broke. They asked, have you asked Mary's for a home scale recipe as a stopgap solution? I didn't know if that's something you've been able to ask or if you're in contact with Mary's.
Yes, we're in touch with them, but no, that's not something we can really do at this point.
Sure.
But it's a great idea. We did attempt that, and I'm not saying down the road we wouldn't try and make our own patch, but I just haven't been able to learn that yet. And I know a lot of people do. I think somebody said there's a group in Colorado. I'm not sure if it's Realm or Caring. They can actually help you if you are going to try and make your own type of products. And actually, learning how to make a patch would be a good thing for us to try and do. But I have not tried that just yet. But I would like to learn.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about, I know this is a big question
I think
here.
also because all the vendors basically own, or their recipes are proprietary. So I wouldn't expect them to just give those out. That's their bread and butter. That they own those. They patent those recipes, I believe, somehow through cannabis attorneys.
Well, a commenter says there may be all kinds of workarounds, but we should support Ashley in using what works. I think you'd appreciate that.
I don't know if I lost you.
Oh, can you not hear me? People that are listening, can you hear me? I don't know if Maureen can hear me. Commenters, can you let me know if you're hearing me right now? I was just about to ask Brandon's question as well, but okay. Smoking pots and pans, thank you. Darn, Maureen can't hear us right now. But that's okay.
I can't hear you, Cole. I'm really sorry. I don't know if it's muted, but I can't hear you.
Okay. It's all good. Thank you for hopping on. Darn. Yeah, I can hear her too. I can hear her, but I think, she's calling from a mobile location, so she's not able to hear me, unfortunately. So darn. Well, Brandon, I apologize. I was just about to ask your question. Thank you for confirming, everybody, that you can hear me. And Genetic Memory Farms, it's not what she's saying. It's not that the recipe is patented. I think she's saying that it's like she has used this and has developed a recipe or a ritual, a habit, a routine. That's the word I was looking for, a routine. And it works. And so if it's, kind of the idea of if it's not broke, don't fix it. I get what you're saying, sometimes, I get what you're saying, but at the end of the day, um, that was how she responded to that idea earlier in the interview. So she should ask her doctor if they have a solution. We can get her the oil to make them. The real issue is finding the actual patch material. Absolutely. Yeah, I hear all of you on this. Because at the end of the day, and I think this is back to genetic memory farms, I mean, it's just like we just need to figure out what that dosage is and then I guess how to uniformly spread it. And that's kind of why I asked that question earlier on in the interview. Like, should there be an option for, and there is, luckily in cannabis, sort of, it's nothing really is stopping anybody from making the same product. Obviously, they'd have to use different branding and all stuff like that, but all of that stuff, I mean to say. Out of water. My cat's in here. What's up? What's up, bro? What you doing? Hey. All right, folks. Well, I hope you're having a great Friday night. Maureen's still here, I think, but we can't hear her right now. So, yeah, sucks that we couldn't. But we'll do more. It sounds like Maureen's husband Jim has a Twitch, so we'll do another like stream. What does DMSO mean? DMSO. Do they sell this formulation in Michigan? Yes, I believe they do. Oh, wait, actually, I was trying to look at that. That's a great question. I was trying to look at that. I found one dispensary that carried them, but it was like only like one of the lines of patches, like one of the colors. I don't know if that's how they sell them in all. Oh, Maureen's back. Hey, Maureen.
I'm sorry. I don't know if it's my connection, but I'm sorry. I'm back.
Oh no, it's all good. Thank you for coming back. A few other people had quick questions, and then we can get
Of
you
course.
out of here.
No, it's okay.
Where was it?
I appreciated the question about the patches that they have online, because I'm not saying those aren't, not a possibility, but I was just trying to get as close to what she was using, and that's why I have those as a backup, but I was really trying to get super close to what she had so that less of a chance of any kind of reaction.
Right. And that's kind of what I was trying to tell some others. What do you Excuse me, this is a big question. So what do you think about the idea of opening the market so that anyone can get a cannabis license? Because like as it stands today, cannabis licenses in the state of Illinois are limited. And like the governor has even said that licenses are limited to prevent prices from becoming so low that people can't make money. Like what do you think about the idea
that's a tough
of
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know if I can comment on that because I don't know enough about that field as far as the licenses. What I do know though is that I think the license fees, from just comparing a couple states to us, that our license fees are very high, and that's something I asked Bob Morgan to look into, because what if, and I'm not saying I know, but what if vendors are leaving our program because our fees are a little bit too steep for their pockets, and then they can't support anybody, patients, rec, or their business. So I wish I could answer your other question. I don't know enough about that, but it's an interesting angle. I mean,
Yeah.
if we're rescheduling and this business is only going to literally blow up more, maybe that is an option. I would think that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question for the governor. It's a good one.
It is a good question for the governor and the legislators. So, folks, any other questions here? let me know if you have any questions. I'm not seeing any others.
Is
Have you
anyone
talked to
else
your
having shortage or inventory issues with their products? I was kind of wondering that too. From like we're having trouble, but I didn't know if other people were too.
It's a good question, especially a good question to ask here. There's a lot of Illinois listeners, so uh, somebody asked if you've talked to your doctor at all about this. I know your doctor probably can't help because it's a specific
Oh yeah,
product, but
we have been in touch with our several doctors. Yes, I mean
yeah,
it's just tricky because Ashley uses the patches, but she also uses RSO at night. So it's the combination that she's been using for 8 years has been perfect, and it's hard for anyone to really comment on what would be a perfect substitute for Ash because it's not only going to help her with what it her seizures and all the other things it has helped her with, but it also worked very well with the paired with the other medicine that she used at night. So it's just a tricky thing to figure out, but we're doing our best with what we know.
yeah. Well, hey, I want to thank you for calling in tonight on your Friday night, and thank you for giving me all the time you did. I think a lot of people were really found a lot of value in your interview and in Ashley's stories. So I just wanted to thank you again for the progress you and your family helped make for Illinois cannabis policy. And before you go, do you want to say anything else to folks on this Friday night?
Well, first I want to thank you, Cole. That's awesome that you interviewed me and our family story. It means a lot, and we want our story to spread so that we can keep moving these laws along. And I just say to everyone out there, if you have any questions about your program or your products, just keep bringing them up to your legislators and your cannabis divisions because we have to keep moving these laws along. And if you're new to the cannabis world and you think you want to try it for something, for some ailment you're experiencing, check with your doctor because I do feel like that was, Ashley's patches are a lifeline to her. And I'm just so glad we took that leap of faith and courage to try the product for her because it's given her life back. And I can't even imagine if we didn't do it where she'd be right now. I can't even imagine. So thank you for this opportunity for us to share. And I hope if it helps one person, that's amazing and a blessing. So thanks, Cole, and keep doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you again for all your time, Maureen, and for calling in.
And one more thing, Cole, we need signers on that petition. So I noticed I think you posted it. So that's awesome. The change.org,
Yep.
Save Ashley. That would be awesome if we could get more signatures on that because I think that will drive federal attention as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, that's colememo.com/Ashley. That link will be in the podcast description. And if you just type that into your browser, once again, that's colememo.com/Ashley. You'll have a link so that you can sign that change.org petition.
And if people have more questions or comments about us, Cole, I don't mind if you need to feed them through us, that's fine. I'm more than happy to help. I think we're all in this together, and like I told you on the interview, it works. So we don't plan to go anywhere with this cannabis for our daughter. It really has changed her life, and we just have to figure out this problem, and I do believe we can.
Yeah, I want to connect you with this show. It's called the Elevated News Podcast. They heard your
Oh,
story, and one of the hosts is very passionate about it, and so
wow.
I'll have to connect you. I told them that I would do that because they have been talking about your story and are very, like I said, passionate about the subject of medical cannabis. So
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. You have a great night and have a wonderful weekend.
yes, you too. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, folks, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. The internet is cool. Um. So yeah. All right. Well, happy Friday, folks. I think I'm about to wrap up because was the show the show goes on. feel like most companies are running distillate as opposed to RSO. Oh, I've got more than 30 seconds devoted to this story on Cannabis Coast to Coast News. So yeah, that's actually already filmed and sent and should air on the next episode of Cannabis Coast to Coast News. So pretty excited about that, and I'm hoping that it being on a larger platform than this little platform gets more attention on her story, and that's why I wanted to connect them with Aaron and Dave. Not only because Dave is both of them are super passionate about the subject, but because it's another platform that can get the story out. And I think Dave talks about it, the Project 21 or something. The idea that look up Dave's channel, Peace, Love, and Cope, and Project 21 makes more sense to him, or when he explains it. Thank you. It's all good. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate you all. And well, yeah, don't forget to hit that like button. And apparently, if like after the live stream wraps, you drop like, I guess it's like an 8-word comment or something like that. It's after the live stream wraps, not in the live chat, in the comment section. It's just gonna be like, hey Cole, I am hitting the like button or I'm commenting because you told me to leave an 8-word comment. Bang. Apparently that gets more eyes on the comment, on the content, and I need all the help I can get, people. Have a great weekend. I love what you're doing and how much you help other people spread their story. Keep doing what you're doing. Well, thank you, Smoking Pots and Pans, and I really like your name. That's nice. How do dispensaries transfer seeds and clones interstate? Hemp. Right now, at least. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works. They call it hemp. I've got some seeds in this house that like there's strains that you can find in the dispensary and by the same breeder. And yeah, you buy it as hemp. So this is what I was trying to say earlier on screen. If you're listening to this podcast because you listen to the audio version, sometimes I display comments on screen, by the way, if you've ever wondered that. I'm just like referencing some. That's why I try to read it. Satisfied Mind says they don't ask questions in reference to how do dispensaries transfer clones and seeds. Anyway, it's Friday night. I hope you're all having a great new year so far. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I go live every Tuesday now at 7:15 p.m. Central Time. So I don't know what the show's going to be about, but the idea is that it'll be live every Tuesday, 7:15 p.m., unless announced otherwise, I should say. Once again, you can, the best way to support the show is just by sharing it with your friends and hitting the like button. And if you can, go to colememo.com/support. And I will see you next Tuesday right here on
The Cole Memo.
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 The Cole Memorandums. The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo. This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.